Good morning, Dr. Charles-Marcel. We thank you for being with us this morning. It's great to have you on the Regional Conference Retirement Zone. And on behalf of the Regional Conference Retirement Plan and Dr. William Cox, the Executive Director, we want to say welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be on with you.
Good. I know you have a very busy schedule. I believe you're coming from Asia and you're going to some other country. And let me take this moment also to congratulate you on your recent appointment to be the Director of Health Ministries at the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. It's quite an honor.
It is an honor. And while people congratulate me, others are sharing their condolences.
No condolences. When I was at the General Conference, I worked with Health Ministries, and it was one of the most productive and enjoyable aspects of my portfolio. And I'm just really impressed with some of the exciting things that Health Ministries is doing. Could you just take one moment for our retirees and all the other ones viewing this program and tell us maybe one or two initiatives you're working on now?
Okay, well, one of them, of course, is the expansion of our training programs, not just for the members, but also professional training in medical schools. We have 7 medical schools right now.
Okay.
And there are 3 more or less that they're thinking that the people in different communities want to start, and there are communities that don't have Adventist medical schools at this point. So that's one. And the second thing is actually kind of going back to the future, because we have an initiative that's going on with regard to the 21st century sanitarium. In other words, taking the essence of what was sanitarium work back in the day and bringing it into the 21st century.
Good.
To then essentially retool our hospitals, our clinics, and whatnot to reflect our historic belief in health in a particular way.
Wonderful.
The health message.
Well, listen, what you're doing is very consistent with what we'll talk about this morning in this interview. And by the way, it will go not only on the our monthly, what we call the ADEL monthly program, but also we will have an article on this in the Regional Voice. So it will get a lot of exposure, and so your views will be appreciated. In the retirement program, our goal is to make retirement productive, to develop potential in this third chapter of life. And in short, we want to make retirement popular, make it where it's not something we shield away from or don't want to talk about, but we bring it right in the open and something we can be very proud of and happy that we're able to enter into this part of life. But we want to do it with intelligence, with great knowledge, and your interview today will help us do that. First of all, I just want to ask you on behalf of our viewers and readers, can you share a bit of your journey and what inspired you to dedicate your career in medicine to various facets of healthcare, including public health, medical practice, and lifestyle medicine? Give us a word background on that.
Okay, well, I didn't start off wanting to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. My dad had actually a missionary predicted that I was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
And my dad held on to that idea, even though as a youth, I wasn't particularly interested in medicine per se. I was interested in academics and I was interested in science and research, but not necessarily medicine. Well, but God works in different ways and channeled my activity to become very interested in biophysics and then medicine out of that. And the rest is history, as they say. But why specifically the line that I went to? Well, I was one of these jack of all trades. I enjoyed so many different things that it was difficult for me to choose any one. But the most intellectually challenging was the issue of internal medicine as opposed to surgery, which is also challenging, but in a different way. But I did the internal medicine route, got into academics, and out of that, I realized very early that as I became a Seventh-day Adventist when I was already an adult and a physician, that what was being taught by the church, the counsel we have from Ellen White, was actually real. Okay, and it was actually something that was tangible. It wasn't just some idea of some, 19th century eccentric. It was actually real stuff. And so I started to pursue the evaluation and the validation, if you will, for myself and for others of the things that she had been seeing.
Good. If you were to identify a specialized area you're particularly interested in, what is that?
I'm a diabetologist, I'm a geriatrician, and my view is that we have chronic diseases that people say are chronic, but actually many of them are reversible.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, great. That leads us to one of our major questions for those people in retirement or who are right before retirement. What do you see, doctor, as being some of the most common health challenges that you have observed in retirees? And then, I guess right along with that, what proactive steps can pre-retirees take to mitigate these issues? Give us about 2 or 3.
I'll give you some ideas. Well, the first thing is that retirees should actually be planning beforehand.
Good.
Before retirement.
Okay.
Right? To be ready for retirement, so to speak. Okay. Now I know that oftentimes people just concentrate on the finances, but that's not the most important part, because you might have a lot of money, but if you're not healthy,
that's right.
It's not gonna do you much good, because you're gonna use the money up just taking care of yourself and your health concerns. So that's an issue. So pre-planning is a good thing, and we can talk about that some more. But chronic diseases, right? Diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease, cancer, the arthritis. These are all common concerns that retirees tend to have or develop. Also, a significant number of them will develop mental health issues that they may not want to talk about.
Okay.
Or people may not want to stigmatize because of the, what's associated with mental health problem. But that's a serious issue as well. Depression, anxiety, often brought on by loneliness and isolation, not having the kinds of contact that they otherwise would have had. And that's those are...
Without limiting our discussion to African Americans or to people of color, name a disease or two that you think is a particular challenge that people of color should be sensitive to?
Diabetes and high blood pressure.
Why?
Because it's more prevalent among the African American population, and it tends to be diagnosed later rather than sooner.
Okay.
And many people don't know of the resources that are available, not just to help them maintain a blood sugar, but actually to reverse the disease that they have in the first place, right?
Hey, well, that's a great point. And just take a minute, if you would, and say, give us a few things that people could do to help reverse this. I know you're really keen in this area.
Okay. First of all, I need to make a declaration. It's not everybody whose disease is going to be reversed. There are several factors involved, including how long you've had the disease, what you have done before, and whether you already have some end organ damage. Those things are not reversible. But by and large, diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease are dietary diseases, believe it or not. And I say primarily dietary diseases. It also involves your movement, your mobility, whether you're physically active or not physically active. But the diet plays such a key role in this that people should begin to think, if they're thinking about living and not just thinking about dying.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Good.
We should look at this issue. Right.
Okay.
So we say diet and exercise. So D and E.
I like that.
Or D-I-E.
Okay.
D-I-E is die. Okay.
Well, I like D and E.
And even D and E, right?
Well, that's great.
So that's a better approach. And this is practical. it's in many cases it's actually cheaper, right? Less expensive to live in a healthy way than to live in an unhealthy way.
Very good. Well, thank you for that, Doctor. I know in your department at the General Conference, you have, I think it's celebration model. There's the creation.
Celebrations.
There's
And creation and new start.
What do you recommend? What acronym do you recommend?
Well, of course, the one that we promote is celebrations, but any of them, whichever one works for somebody, right, to help them to remember what it is that the principles of healthy living would be, use that one, right?
Good.
Some of them are proprietary, which means you may not be able to promote it in the same way because somebody might say, you're infringing on their copyright also. Celebrations has no copyright restrictions for Seventh-day Adventists to use anywhere in the world.
Okay.
And so that's an easy one. But the idea is we should start off with the things that are right in our hands to be able to do. Okay. And
so you mentioned diet and exercise. Is there anything else that you want to stress?
Sleep. Okay. And I'm saying that as someone who over the years has struggled with sleep, not because I can't fall asleep, but because I have stuff that I'm doing and I don't want to sleep.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
And the way I'm built, for years, I did what I thought was pretty well on 4 hours of sleep.
Okay.
But that is not the norm, right?
Well,
the
one
norm
of the things, one of the things I've noticed in this area, Doctor, that I know we could spend the whole interview on this alone, but people often talk about the diet, exercise, sleep, water, sunshine, proper breathing, and so forth. We talk about these things, but they're very difficult to do. I mean, as you just described, they're difficult to do. If you were to get one or two tips that you'd recommend as a physician, what's the best way to motivate yourself to do what we know we should do?
Okay. I call that the information action gap, right? So we can have information, but information alone doesn't change us. Frankly, there are some people who will not make a change until they're forced to make a change, right? Some people are not sick enough. And when they get sick enough, then they say, okay, I'm willing to make a change. Others, you tell them, here are some things that you can do, and they will do it. So, basic tips. Start where you are. Don't project too much on what somebody else is doing and what some guru on the internet is telling you, including myself, right? You start with where you are. We eat 3 times a day. Some people eat much more than that. You need to eat at least, you could cut back that to get rid of the snacks. Okay, no snacks. So 2 or 3 meals a day, that will be sufficient.
Okay.
And people can do that starting today, right?
Starting now.
Drinking enough water, assuming that you don't have some disease that drinking water will be contraindicated. But drinking enough water, get a jug with, enough water for the day, and you just measure it. You drink during the day. Try not to drink a lot at night. Because that might have you get up and have, interrupt your sleep. But you do it during the day. And if just water doesn't fill your taste buds, put a little bit of lemon in it. Okay.
Good.
That changes the taste, and it makes, for some people, a lot more palatable.
Well, I feel like your key is start where you are. And do something now, as you just said. And I think that's so crucial that we're not waiting for some great event or crisis to force us, but we can do it now. Which brings me to the next question about lifestyle medicine. Okay, what we're talking about actually goes right into that. But when you see people moving toward retirement, what lifestyle medicine advice would you recommend for those in the category of right before retirement?
I would say, be sure that you have a routine, okay? Yeah. And the routine includes physical activity every day, right? again, you don't have to be preparing for a marathon. You just do 15 minutes. Start with 15 minutes of brisk walking, and you do that every day. A little bit every day works better than a lot sporadically, right? So you do something every day. The other is that you develop a rhythm of how you're going to follow your life, okay? And for the things that are age appropriate for your screenings and evaluation, you get those things done. So if it's every year, every other year, or whatever it is, depending on your age and your gender, then you will get those things done at an appropriate time so that you can anticipate any problem coming down the line and take care of it earlier. Okay, so those are issues that many people, again, can initiate wherever they are in life right now, whether they've just retired, whether they're before retirement, or whether they're 17 years of age and they're thinking that they will be living long enough to see Jesus come.
Well, that's helpful. And I think what you're saying is so important. I think it ties also with it's something I know you believe in and you stress in your department, and that is the issue of trust in divine power, the spiritual part of it. Give us a word about how that impacts as well.
Okay. Researchers outside of the Seventh-day Adventist Church have looked to see what is the Adventist advantage. And one of the things that several authors point out is that when people have the idea that they're responding to a higher authority, right, for their own health, for their own well-being, or whatever it is that they're doing, that they tend to follow it better. The other issue is one author pointed out that the idea that you're not your own, okay, that you have to give account for what you're doing, it motivates some people and gives a particular advantage. A third issue that they mention is the issue of love and compassion.
Right.
That our love for God, right, leads us to live a compassionate life, one that from a mental standpoint, we love other people, we're socially engaged with them, and we're tender-hearted towards others, and that rubs off on how we also treat ourselves and how we treat our family. So it provides our spiritual life, our Judeo-Christian Adventist spiritual life, actually enhances not just the length of life, but also the quality of life.
I want to wrap this up by just asking you a final question. You all have the last word. This has been a wonderful interview. We thank you for sharing your very, very insightful thoughts and for taking the time out from your schedule. I know you're extremely busy and full agenda, but of course, this is ministry too, isn't it? This is a part of ministry, what we're about. So in closing, what resources or support systems do you recommend for retirees? Or just give a closing word of advice that you play. Here's how you can be healthy and productive, and then I'm going to ask you to give a brief word of prayer to that.
Yeah, I would suggest that people stay connected. We have vertical connection, right? Stay connected with God. All right, don't let this lag behind. That should be a big issue, right? There's some people in their life, because they've been so-called busy, right? They didn't have time for God. Well, I tell you what, make the time now, right? So that's one.
Right.
Next one is our horizontal activity, right? That is our loved ones, those who are close to us, our neighbors, our friends. Make sure that you keep those relations intact. That's our horizontal activity. And then for the young ones, the legacy idea, right? The young ones who are coming behind, right? Leave them something good. Okay, not just a heritage related to some inheritance of money or something like that. That's good too, but give them something that will last beyond the money. Okay.
Good.
Now, with that in mind, there are organizations like the AARP and others that give you updates on things that pertain to the elderly. There are some magazines that for gerontology and geriatrics that deal with that. There's some leisure magazines that talk about people who can spend leisure time now that they're retired in doing things. Some of these things tend to be very secular oriented, but still there are things that you can glean from that, right? And now online services, there are different websites, and if we talk about just medical things, there are medical websites that you can go on. And I want to make now a plug, if you will, for the Adventist Review and the Adventist World. Every month, we write an article answering people's questions about things. Right? Sure. And it's not all about geriatrics or elderly people. We take the questions as they come, and some of them are very challenging, and we try to do something in 500.
All those are online still.
Well, yes, so people can go back and look at them. We're going to try to put them into a little booklet or something, the way we've answered the questions over the years and how things have changed.
Yeah, and I would even ask that if you do that booklet, maybe you can do an electronic version of it as well.
Yes. So
those are great suggestions, Doc. I mean, this has been extremely practical. When you were mentioning, you said something about online. I failed to mention, and I didn't ask you about this, but another great area for retirees is social media and online options. I've become much familiar with artificial intelligence. That's a great area to assist there. Any subject people want to ask about nowadays, they can go online and see it. And then you got to check with your physician to know, and don't let that be the last word. But these are resources that retirees can plug into as well, and that can help you. Would you agree to that?
Yes. And so the online access that you can have, and sometimes people think, well, because you're old, you don't use the internet. That's rubbish.
That's rubbish.
You can learn how to use it and learn how to navigate and get the things that you want out of it without necessarily polluting yourself with some of the things that are rubbish, right?
Okay.
So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, we want to thank you. I think your last words about closing advice about staying connected is crucial. That's, I guess, in all the dimensions of life, right? Spiritually, physically, talking about vertical, horizontal, and so forth, socially, and even staying connected with yourself, not losing a perspective of who you are, where you are, and constantly developing that potential. Doctor, we want to thank you for your wise counsel.
It's been a privilege.
Please offer a brief word of closing prayer for us.
All right. Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you that even though we sometimes talk about children and the fact that they're still in formation, that you're not finished with them yet.
Yes,
we know that you're not finished with any of us yet.
Yes.
And so we place ourselves into your hands and into your care one more time and ask you to please have your way and have your sway in our lives. Show us what we cannot get from any other source but from you. What to do, how to do it. And I pray that no one in the hearing of my voice would be lost because of anything that we said or did or didn't do today. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.